an essence of in the studies that were done, and the essence of being resilient is to take something which is traumatic or potentially traumatic, reframe it, and change it into a challenge. So something which could be incredibly dangerous, damaging to you, you change that, reframe it into a challenge. If we were to look at the other situation, which is what happens when you are not resilient. So you're faced by a problem. As I say, it's either external or internal, or external and internal. You're faced by this problem. If, when it happens, you feel totally alone, you feel overwhelmed, and you feel paralyzed, then that's the opposite of being resilient. And it's like when I was thinking of this talk, I thought like a rabbit sitting on a highway with the car frozen, with the two car lights coming towards you, very alone, overwhelmed, paralyzed, and unless you act, you die. So what the studies, starting with Gomezi and then all the rest looked at, is they looked at, firstly, what do resilient people do? And then they asked a question, which is it something innate? Is, that you have left-handed people and you have people with black hair and you have resilient people? Or is it something that can be taught? And the answer very, very clearly is, once you work out the factors, which is why this is so exciting, once you work out the factors that make people resilient, you can teach them and you can learn them. And once you've learned them, you've changed everything for yourself. So if we look at the factors, that things that people who are resilient do, how do they behave? And it's essentially the opposite of that rabbit sitting frozen. So the first thing is, as your base, if you feel alone, it's easier to become overwhelmed. So one of the big things that resilient people have is they have an ability to reach out, and they have loving, supportive relationships in their life, and they are able to communicate with people who can help. And if you were to, like an essence, these people would be your family, perhaps your friends, or one good friend. All you need is one good friend. Community organizations, churches, craft groups, if you're in a group of people who are like-minded, and you feel like you can trust them. I mean, to me, the essence is this community that we have here. This is the perfect place to reach out if you have a problem, and as you share it, you are starting to be resilient. You're doing the first step, which creates your base. You are not alone. And because you are not alone, you are much, much more powerful. And with the feeling of being supported as a problem occurs, it will help this very mysterious thing called self-esteem. So you will feel, think, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm okay. So that's the base of resilience. The next is that you have to be realistic. And this is, again, the qualities that people who are resilient, they're realistic. They look at it and they say, okay, I'm okay, but these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses. Okay, so as I move forward, I'm going to do the things that are that work for me. I'm not going to think that I can leap over a big building, because I'm just not capable of that. That's okay. So realism, you're based in reality, the choices that you make. Then you need a few skills, and the two skills that research has highlighted is, the first is that you have a skill in problem solving, because that's an essential skill, that is to be able to look at the situation and say, okay, where are my solutions? And you have skills in communication, because again, the way as human beings, as social beings that we are, social creatures, is that to find solutions, to be resilient, you need to be able to communicate. And then there were two more very fascinating ones, and these are like innate capacity. The capacities are, firstly, the capacity to manage strong feelings. As something awful occurs, you can often, emotions can whoosh right over you, and especially so that you don't end up depressed or incredibly anxious. So you need to be able to handle, to be resilient, you need to be able to recognize them, recognize emotions, move. Emotions are not stuck forever. So as the emotion comes, you just handle it, you breathe your way through it, okay. So that's the first thing, you handle strong emotions. And the second, which is fascinating, is the ability or the capacity to cope with or handle impulses. So as something occurs, you don't say, right, that's it, and go off and get a gun and go out and shoot somebody or harm yourself. So these are the innate, these are the things that people have noted, that if you do these things, you will be resilient. And the final point, which seems to come up again and again and again, is spirituality. And this again helps with that feeling of being alone. So if you believe that there is a greater force, that we're part of a greater force, it's not necessarily religious, but it's this feeling of being, we are maybe a spark of the divine, which I certainly believe. And that also allows you not to feel alone.